Right, let's take a look at the ongoing situation in Turkey now. And Turkish media say authorities in Istanbul have elected an interim mayor to serve in place of Ekrem İmamoğlu, who was detained a week ago and whose detention has triggered huge protests. Nuri Aslan is from Mr. İmamoğlu's centre-left party, the CHP, which is the main opposition to President Erdogan's AKP. Protests have been ongoing for a seventh night. These huge anti-government demonstrations that you can see there. Nearly 1,500 people have been detained as part of the protests, and that includes journalists and lawyers. The leader of the CHP has called for a mass rally on Saturday. Let's go to Washington now and talk again to Soner Çaptay, biographer of President Erdogan and an analyst at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Mr. Çaptay, thank you very much for sticking with us. We got interrupted when we were talking earlier on. You were describing previously the size of these demonstrations and how it's remarkable compared to other protests that we've seen previously. And I wonder if I can ask you how representative that is of the public view of President Erdogan. Ordinarily, people only really take to the streets if they're unhappy. Are there, in fact, lots of people sitting in Istanbul who are perfectly content with how things are going?
I think that demonstrations are quite significant, given that for about 10 years, Turkey had a lull in peaceful public protests. Now, Turkey was a democracy twice longer than Erdogan is in power. The country has a very deep tradition of public dissent and protest, but for about 10 years now, I think because of the government curbing freedoms of expression, assembly and media, demonstrations had completely disappeared. So the fact that they're back, I think that's kind of humbling for President Erdogan. And I think that's why he's stepping back, although he sacked the mayor. It looks like he's allowing the mayor's party to elect the mayor's successor. So while the mayor is in jail, the city of Istanbul stays in the hands of the opposition. I think Erdogan is hoping the demonstrations will fizzle away and then he can move on with his game plan going forward after that.
President Erdogan has been accused of a heavy-handed response to any form of dissent. As I mentioned, 1,500 odd people arrested. We have seen water cannon being used, tear gas, and arguably a heavy-handed response by the security forces. Are we likely to see that kind of response to these demonstrations continuing?
Unfortunately, that seems to be the case. So far, no fatalities. That's good news, but really kind of violent crackdown, tear gas, water cannons, and also arresting and targeting journalists, especially photojournalists. These are the people who are kind of documenting and recording and reporting on the demonstrations, both for Turkish audiences and global audiences. So it looks like there's an attempt to control information. I think it's surprising President Erdogan did not expect hundreds of thousands to come out of Istanbul, where the mayor of the city was sacked by him, but all across the country. This is the first time Turkey is seeing sustained massive rallies in about 10 years. So perhaps that's the reason why, for example, the mayor's indictment did not include terrorism charges. That would have been debilitating for the mayor's brand. Now he's indicted for allegations of corruption, but it looks like maybe Erdogan is trying to kind of take a step back. He's thinking Istanbul is a cold city right now, that demonstrations will eventually get tired of beaten up and cold and they'll disappear, and then maybe he'll go with his plan. He's still determined, in my view, to completely take the mayor out of the race, Mayor İmamoğlu, because İmamoğlu is Erdogan's key opponent, and it looks like he's going to defeat him if he's allowed to run in free and fair elections.
And if I can ask you, it's a cliche, but there's a lot going on in the world just now. President Trump in the White House, conflict in the Middle East, conflict in Europe. Is President Erdogan likely to get any international response or criticism from other world leaders, or is everyone else too distracted to pay attention to what's happening?
So it's all about the timing. One is the mayor of Istanbul, İmamoğlu, was becoming super popular. Erdogan wanted to nip him in the bud. The other is he wanted to leverage a permissive global environment. As you have stated it, Turkey is an important country, a middle power with significant military capabilities. It's going to play a role in Europe's defense against Russia. It will patrol post-conflict Ukraine. It's stabilizing Syria, preventing refugee flows from there. So key players, whether it's Europe, Russia or US, all need Turkey. And I think Erdogan is aware of that.
OK, we will unfortunately have to leave it there. Soner Çaptay, biographer of President Erdogan, thank you so much for sticking with us and
it's a pleasure.
for
Thank you.
giving us your analysis. We do appreciate it. Thank you.